Howdy, y'all. We are back with part 2 of The Fisherman and His Wife. The Fisherman and His Wife is a Grimm's fairy tale, and this story, as with all the fairy tales I present on my channel, is not intended for children. If you would like to hear part 1 or any of the other fairy tales I've presented, please check them out on my Storytime playlist. So now on to part 2 of The Fisherman and His Wife. When we last left the fisherman and his wife, he had just went to the flounder and told the flounder that his wife wanted to be king, and the fish said, "Go home, she is so already." So the man went back, and as he came to the palace, he saw it was very much larger and had great towers and splendid gateways. A herald stood before the door, and a number of soldiers with kettle drums and trumpets. And when he came inside, everything was of marble and gold, and there were many curtains with great golden tassels. Then he went through the doors of the saloon to where the great throne room was, and there was his wife sitting upon a throne. The throne was of gold and diamonds, and she had a great golden crown upon her head, and the scepter in her hand was of pure gold and jewels. And on each side stood 6 pages in a row, each one a head shorter than the other. So the man went up to her, and he said, "Well, wife, so now you are king." "Yes," said the wife, "now I am king." So then he stood and he looked at her, and when he had gazed at her for some time, he said, "Well, wife, this is fine for you to be king. Now there's nothing more to wish for." "Oh, husband," said the wife, "I'm tired of this already. Go to your fish and tell him now that I am king, I must be emperor." "No, wife," said the man, "what do you want to be emperor for?" "Husband," she said, "go and tell the fish I want to be emperor." "Oh dear," said the man, "he couldn't do it. He could not do it. I cannot ask him for such a thing. There is but one emperor at a time, and the fish can't possibly make any one emperor. Indeed, he cannot." "Now look here," said the wife, "I am king, and you are only my husband, so you will go at once. Go along, for if he was able to make me king, he is able to make me emperor, and I will and must be emperor. Go along." So he was obliged to go, and as he went, he felt very uncomfortable about it, and he thought to himself, "It is not the right thing to do. To want to be emperor is really going too far. The flounder will soon be beginning to get tired of this." With that he came to the sea, and the water was quite black, and it was thick, and the foam flew, and the wind blew, and the man was terrified. But he stood and he said, oh man, if man you be, or flounder, flounder in the sea, such a tiresome wife I've got, for she wants what I do not." "What is it now?" said the fish. "Oh dear," said the man, "my wife wants to be emperor." "Go home with you," said the fish, "she is emperor already." So the man went home, and he found the castle adorned with polished marble and alabaster figures and golden gates, and troops were being marshaled before the door, and they were blowing trumpets and beating drums and cymbals. And when he entered, he saw barons and earls and dukes waiting about like servants, and the doors were of bright gold. And he saw his wife sitting upon a throne made of one entire piece of gold, and it was about 2 miles high. And she had a great golden crown on, which was about 3 yards high. And it was set with brilliants and carbuncles, and in one hand she held the scepter, and in the other the globe. And on both sides of her stood pages in 2 rows, all arranged according to their size, from the most enormous giant of 2 miles high to the tiniest dwarf the size of my little finger. And before her stood earls and dukes in crowds. So the man went up to her and he said, "Well, wife, so now you are emperor." "Yes," she said, "now I am emperor." And then he went and he sat down and he had a good look at her. And then he said, "Well now, wife, there is nothing left to be. Now you are emperor." "What are you talking about, husband?" she said. "I am emperor, and next I will be pope. So go and tell the fish so." "Oh dear," said the man. "What is it that you don't want? You can never be pope. There is but one pope, and the fish cannot possibly do it." "Husband," said she, "no more words about it. I must and will be pope. Go along and tell the fish." "Oh, no, wife," said the man, "how can I ask him such a thing? It is too bad. It is asking too much. And besides, he could not do it." What rubbish," said the wife. "If he could make me emperor, he can make me pope. Go along and ask him. I am emperor, and you are only my husband. So you must go." So he went, feeling very frightened. And he shivered, and he shook, and his knees trembled. And there arose a great wind, and the clouds flew by, and it grew very dark, and the seas rose mountains high, and the ships were tossed about, and the sky was partly blue in the middle, but at the sides very dark and red, as in a great tempest. And he felt very desponding, and he stood trembling, and he said, oh man, if man you be, or flounder, flounder in the sea, such a tiresome wife I've got, for she wants what I do not." "Well, what now?" said the fish. "Oh dear," said the man, "she wants to be pope." "Go home with you. She is pope already," said the fish. So he went home, and he found himself before a great church, with palaces all around, and he had to make his way through a crowd of people. And when he got inside, he found the palace lighted up with thousands upon thousands of lights. And his wife was clothed in a golden garment, and she sat upon a very high throne, and had 3 golden crowns upon her head, all in the greatest priestly pomp. And on both sides of her there stood 2 rows of lights of all sizes, from the largest of the longest tower to the smallest rushlight. And all the emperors and all the kings were kneeling before her and kissing her foot. "Well, wife," said the man, and he sat and he stared at her. "So, you are the Pope?" "Yes," she said. "Now I am the Pope." And he went on gazing at her until he felt dazzled, as if he were sitting in the sun. And then after a little time he said, "Well now, wife, what is there left to be now that you are the Pope?" And she sat up very stiff and straight, and she said nothing. And again he said, "Well, wife, I hope you are contented at last with being Pope. You can be nothing more." "We will see about that," said the wife. With that they both went to bed, but she was as far as ever from being contented, and she could not sleep for thinking of what she should like to be next. The husband, however, slept as fast as a top after his busy day, but the wife tossed and turned from side to side the whole night through, thinking all the while, what could she be next? But nothing would occur to her. And when she saw the red dawn, she slipped off the bed, and she sat before the window to see the sunrise. And as it came up, she said, Ah, I have it. What if I should make the sun and moon to rise? Husband, she cried, and she stuck her elbow in his ribs. Wake up and go to your fish, and you tell him that I want power over the sun and moon. The man was so fast asleep that when he startled, he fell out of the bed. And then he shook himself and got himself together a little, and he opened his eyes and he said, Wife, what did you say? Husband, said she, if I cannot get the power of making the sun and moon rise when I want them, I shall never have another quiet hour. Go to the fish and tell him so. Oh, wife, said the man, and he fell on his knees to her. The fish can really not do that for you. I grant you he could make you emperor, and even pope. But do be contented with that. Please, I beg of you, be contented. And she became wild with impatience, and she screamed out, I can wait no longer. Go at once to the fish. And so off he went, as well as he could for fright. And a dreadful storm arose, so that he could hardly keep his feet. And the houses and trees were blown down, and the mountains trembled, and the rocks fell into the sea. And the sky was quite black, and it thundered, and the lightning cracked, and the waves, crowned with foam, ran mountains high. And so he cried out without being able to hear his own words, oh man, if man you be, or flounder, flounder in the sea. Such a tiresome wife I've got, for she wants what I do not. Well, what now, said the flounder. Oh dear, said the man, she wants to order about the sun and moon. Go home with you, said the flounder. You will find her in the old hovel. And there they are sitting to this very day. The end. Thanks for joining me for another story time. And until next time, y'all be sweet.